Hello. Let me say that again. Wow. You get a sense that God's presence is here this morning? You sense Him ministering in this morning service already? I feel like I don't really have to say much today because we've already been blessed. We've already heard from God through the worship, through the communion, through that prayer. I think you could put a plank of wood up here today and you already would have been blessed. You don't need to hear me say anything. So I think that makes my job easier. But I do want to bless you this morning. And I want to share some thoughts I have on what God's placed on my heart. First of all, we're going to say goodbye to our speaking series on Heartworks. I feel like it's saying goodbye to an old friend. You remember, I don't know if some of you can remember this far back, to high school, last day of high school, and you said goodbye to your friends. And it was maybe a little sad, but you were also pretty excited about what was going to happen in the future. That's what I remember specifically, right? It was the end of one thing and the start of something else. As much as I enjoyed it, it was really time for me to move on. So we started the Heartwork series in, remember this? September last year. It was before Omicron, before the Ukraine. It was before the floods. Time flies, doesn't it? It's almost been 6 months. I look back on the message that was first presented, and it was on the exact same weekend that Dean ran his marathon. That was the marathon for Parkinson's, New South Wales, if you remember. And now this very same weekend that we finish, just this week, Dean, once again, he had a gala event where he raised funds for Parkinson's, New South Wales. So somehow, strangely, we're in sync. I don't know why, Dean. We haven't organized that, have we? Like us, that ends one phase for him, but he has new plans, of course. New things happen. One thing ends, and another thing begins. Because everything in life has a beginning and it has an end. Think about it. Everything in life has a beginning and it has an end. We can't always do what we did before. Sometimes we don't want to do what we did before. But sometimes we do. Sometimes it was great. But we can't do that anymore. Nothing gets preserved permanently in life, no matter how good. Nothing stays the same. Life is more like a river than a lake. Lakes, they just stay where they are. They don't go anywhere. They don't move. But rivers, they always keep moving. They can move slow, sometimes too slow, and sometimes they can move fast. Sometimes it's too fast. But rivers, they always keep moving. Water wants to flow. And as we've seen in the past few weeks, when the rains come, the river flows very quickly indeed. We've seen a lot of images about that. So we never get to this point in life where we're satisfied, it's all good, and we can press a button and everything stays the same. Well, I guess we sort of do. They're called cameras. Take a picture of that special point in our life, right? Point in time. It freezes moments for us. But the moments may be frozen, but we move on. We can't stay the same. My wife and I, at the back of our house, we've got a wall full of photos of important points in our lives, the good memories. But photos fade. Sun beats on them. They diminish over time. Life moves on. You can see this human impulse to hold on to things, to not let go of the past in our own popular culture. You don't really have to look too far. That shouldn't be a surprise because popular culture, it sort of reflects our desires, sometimes our fears, our concerns. It's like a mirror of who we really are. In the movie industry, they love to try and repeat the success of the past. If a movie makes a lot of money, it's commercially successful, the first impulse seems to be, let's do that again. That was good. Let's do it again. Repeat the formula of success, and let's just add a number to the title. Number 2, 3, and 4. There are, you know how many Fast and Furious movies? Do you know how many there are? 15? There's 9. There's 9 If you don't know what the Fast and Furious movies are, it's just about guys and cars and ridiculous stunts. I'm not a fan of that style of movie, but maybe some people here are. And so I've got a question for any of those who here have enjoyed the series. Is there any meaningful difference between Fast and Furious 3 and Fast and Furious 6? I haven't seen those movies. I don't think anyone's seen them either, so I'm going to make a wild guess here and say there's not probably a lot of difference. It's the same thing, right? It's a formula, and you repeat it. It can be worse than just repeating the formula. If a movie doesn't work, the corporate media brains, I guess, they get together and they brainstorm. They say, let's just do it again. In the industry, the term for that is a reboot. You probably heard the term reboot, right, with your computer. Something goes wrong, just press the button, right? Stop it and start it again. And let's see if it'll work this time. So just make the movie again as if the previous one had never even happened. In cinema in recent times, there has been 3 reboots of the Spider-Man series, if you like kind of those superhero movies. 3. Tobey Maguire, that middle guy, anyone know what his name is? And what is it, Holland? Tom Holland, yeah. 3. Since the 1980s, Batman has been rebooted 3 times, and there's been 6 different Batmans. Well, 6 actors. Anyone remember George Clooney's Batman? Wasn't really worth remembering, was it? Why does the world need another version of Batman? How many versions of a brooding, dark, vigilante billionaire do we really need? Could we tell ourselves perhaps a different kind of story? Something, I don't know, new. There's this family friend that Aunt and I have. Some of you know them. And she told us this funny insight she had about her last child. It was a number of years ago. At that time, the little boy was maybe 4 or 5, and she has a couple older kids. There's maybe like an 8 or 10 year gap between the youngest and the next. And she told us she had this really strong desire for that child to not grow up. Really for them to kind of stay at that age. Because it was such a fun age. And she really cherished it. Right? Having older children, she realized this was the last time she was going to see this. And I thought to myself at the time, I don't know what you're talking about. Honestly, I just didn't get it. But we only had 1 kid at the time. But now we have 2 kids. Got little Hugo. When he came along, and I probably changed my mind a little bit. Maybe you had this same experience. I certainly understand the feeling now. Because when you have your first child, everything is something new, right? And it's all happening at the same time. And honestly, it's a bit of a whirlwind, right? It's just things happening. it all happens so fast. But with our last child, at least for us, it's in these moments I realize that they're never going to happen again. I'm never going to teach him to ride a bike again. This is the last time. That only happens once. So I do have this kind of feeling or urge, just like her, to want to savor these moments, to make them stretch, to slow them down. But I can't. Life is more like a river than a lake. And you can't stop a river. It keeps moving. Okay, let's turn to the book of Revelation, chapter 21. This is also known as the Revelation of John. It's the only prophetic book we have in the entire New Testament. It says in chapter 21, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth passed away, and there is no longer any sea. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Behold, the tabernacle of God is among the people, and he will dwell among them. And they shall be his people, and God himself will be among them. And he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will no longer be any death. There will no longer be any mourning or crying or pain. The first things have passed away.' And he who sits on the throne said, 'Behold, I am making all things new.'" How good is that? How good is that, right? If you're having a bad day, I recommend you read Revelation chapter 21. Yes, sometimes in our worst moments, we need to be reminded that this is the end scene for all of creation. Behold. That this is where the river is heading. This is how it all ends. Sometimes it actually is worth having a peek at the ending. You ever do that? I used to love reading novels when I was younger. I was a voracious reader. I don't know if anyone picks up books anymore these days. Everything's online. But, I love to read, and I have to admit, every once in a while, it would get a bit of a grind. I'd be in a story, 234 pages, and there's, it was 400 in the novel, and I'm like, man, just what happens at the end? And it was hardly ever a good idea, right? But with life, with the Bible, I think that's okay. We do get a peek of what happens at the end. And that's for us, is to encourage us, to give us a goal to aim for. That's for us to claim. The Message translation says this: "Look, I'm making everything new. Look here." Get off your phones. Stop burying yourself in social media. Stop worrying about your job. Stop worrying about what is happening in the world, about the floods, the virus, and a war. There's always something in the world to be worried about. Always something is happening. There always has been, and there always will be. Jesus asked us this: does worrying add anything to your life? Does it add a single hour? That's a great line. Because in the truth, it's the exact opposite. Worrying takes our time. It steals it from us. We lose hours from worrying, and it never gives us anything but more worry. It steals our energy. It steals our attention. When you're worrying, you're not doing what you need to be doing. You're looking at the wrong thing, and it never gives back. Next year, there'll be other things to worry about. Year after that, there's going to be more things to worry about. But don't look there. Look here. Behold, come and see God on his throne. Stop what you're doing and look to God. See what he's doing right now, this very day. And what he's doing is making all things new. Who else can make all things new? Who can do that? Who else can take what exists and make it new? Has anyone ever heard of such a thing? All we can do as humans is try to reboot. I think January should be renamed International Reboot Year. Month. Because every year we do it again and again. We have this tradition of New Year's resolutions. Collectively, we all sort of get into our mindsets. Let's do something better about our lives. We are full of these resolutions for something new for this year. So now that we're in March, how are your New Year's resolutions going? Can anyone give me a hand up of if you're still going on one of them? Just one? Yeah, me either. We want to reboot our diet. We want to reboot our fitness, our career. Stop doing this and start doing that. Get out more. Stop watching TV. Get off social media. Read the Bible daily. Go hiking more. Reboot. And the truth is, it's all hard work. It's not bad work, but it's hard work. Doesn't mean it's of no value. But in truth, the reboot feels pretty much like the original version. It's just got a different actor. Tom Holland. Not a reboot at all, it's just more of the same. Only God can make things new. Only God can make things new. He can take something old and he can make it new again. He can take your old life and he can make it new. He can take your old way of thinking and he can make it new. He can take some of your old desires and he can make them new. He can take the old way you understand people, how you look at them, and he can make that new. He can take your old understanding of your place in church, and he can give you a new understanding. He can take your old understanding of what church is, and he can make it new. Because he is the God of miracles. He is a supernatural, miracle-working God. It's been 5 years since Liberty was reestablished as a church. Means we're heading into our 6th year. That's hard to believe, right? Time flies. When I look around at those who are here at the beginning, no one is exactly the same. No one's the same as when we first started. It's been a ride down a river. River keeps moving, right? Sometimes it's been turbulent. Sometimes it felt a little slow. Other times it felt a little bit too fast. But it's moving. We can never see around the next bend. That means there are always going to be surprises, things we didn't expect. It has often been hard, but it's always been rewarding. It's always been a blessing. We've never been abandoned by God. Never, not once. And we have not abandoned each other. I know that today we are more like Jesus, better disciples of him, more now than we've ever been before. And that's the way it should be. This church is a better bride of Christ. And I know also that we will continue to grow more like him, more into his image every day. Because rivers need to keep moving. Rivers and lakes. Lakes are just rivers that have stopped moving. Lakes are where rivers go to die. I don't want to be in the lake. I want to be in the river. I don't want to get out of the river and sit on the bank and watch it go by. I don't want to be a spectator. In the past, some people have been in the river and they've gotten out. Now they sit on the bank. These are all people we love. But the river doesn't wait. It goes, and it goes by. And in a way, those who are in the river have gone by them. We're not the same people we were before. And for them who are out of the river, it must be hard to get back into it once you've gotten out. I hope and pray that one day they'll jump back into the river, because all the fun is in the river. Hope they find one of those rope swings, and take a big run up. Just swing out, make a big splash in the river. And we'll be cheering wherever that river is for them, even if it's not here. But we can't stay with them waiting on the riverbank, because we're in the flow of the river, and the river moves on. For people who belong to liberty, the river is where we belong. I don't want another river. This is where my family belongs. And I know that you belong here too. You're my family in Christ. You're my brothers and you're my sisters. All this work, every word spoken, every song sung, every prayer raised, every life that is changed, everything we do, it all belongs to God. Doesn't belong to us. It belongs to Him. We belong to Him, and we belong to each other. God is making this church new. He's sitting on the throne and He says, "Behold, I am making all things new." And it's not a reboot. It's not a version 2.0. He's making this church new. So He takes the old and He makes it new, like only He can do. Because He is a miracle-working God. And He's doing His work here today. The old Liberty Hill is being made new again. Behold, look here. Don't look to the things that distract you. And there's plenty of things to distract you. The things that make you worry about the future. The things that bring you down. I have one question. Are they bigger than Him? Honestly, are they bigger than Him? Don't look to them. Look to He who is greater than the things around you. Are they greater than what He is doing right now today? Stop whatever you're doing today and come and see what I am doing, says God. Behold. Do you have eyes to see? I am making all things new. I'm going to ask the band to come up. At this point, I want to thank people online for tuning in and watching today. I'm going to say goodbye.